Tyler from Aspire Sports. Today's video, I'm going to talk about wide receivers that I believe you should draft because they are good values currently based upon their ADP. Now, I've had some people ask me, what is ADP? And then other people say, like, ADP really doesn't matter that much. So, real quick, I'm going to touch on both of these. So, first, ADP is average draft position. So, if you look at, say, a player like Jonathan Taylor currently being drafted, say like his ADP, I don't know exactly what his ADP is. Like we'll say like 10th overall, somewhere around there. I'd say probably like 9th, somewhere around there. So he's currently being drafted as the 9th player off of the board in fantasy football. Like running back number 7 probably is what his ADP is currently, right around that range, depending on the sites that you're looking at. So ADP is where that player is going. And then to me, ADP does matter because if you look at players, they have a certain range of possibilities or outcomes. And if a player is getting drafted basically towards his ceiling, like that's not good value. It's like looking at the stock market. You want to buy something that it's like at its cap, you don't see it going over that mark. Like it's just not good value. You want to buy it when it's lower. So these wide receivers are wide receivers that I see outperforming their current ADP. So why wouldn't you want that player on your team? It's good value. It's going to return value for you. And in fantasy football, that's what you want at draft day. You want players that are going to outperform their ADP, players that you think are very good. So to me, ADP does matter. So with that being said, let's get into the video. The first player I'm going to talk about, and it's kind of two players in one. So the first player is Brandon Ayuk. And then the other player is going to be Ja'Marr Chase. But I didn't include Ja'Marr Chase because in best ball currently, he's going sooner than Brandon Ayuk. Currently is going as wide receiver number 21, where Brandon Ayuk is going wide receiver number 26, and he's 62nd overall. So there's kind of a gap between these two. But if you look at redraft, currently Ja'Marr Chase is going later. So it just depends on what you're looking at. And as we get closer to draft season, more and more people start to do their drafts. We'll have a better idea of where these two are really being valued. But currently, best ball, that's where people are really staying with the draft, not going on auto draft because you have money involved. So as we get closer to the season, though, I'll let you know which one really. But for now, Brandon Ayuk, because he's going later. And if it's Ja'Marr Chase that goes later, then I would draft Ja'Marr Chase. But if right now Brandon Ayuk's going later in the drafts that I see. So currently for Brandon Ayuk, why I like him. Number one, somebody that I talk about, Matt Harmon. He does a really good piece on reception perception. And this is a guy that's scoring in the 80th percentile for both a success rate against man coverage and also press coverage. So you have a wide receiver, a rookie wide receiver last year that was very, very good. And now plays in a Kyle Shanahan where the X wide receiver has been very good for Kyle Shanahan, has been heavily targeted. You go back to guys like Julio Jones, Pierre Garçon, Andre Johnson. Yes, you can say Andre Johnson and obviously Julio Jones are two of the best wide receivers to ever really play the game. But then you look at Pierre Garçon when he was in Washington, he was very heavily targeted as well. So this upcoming season, I do think big things are in store for Brandon Ayuk, and I think he's going to be a very good wide receiver in the NFL for years to come. But for this upcoming season, I think it's much better to be there before the breakout than try to get him later. This upcoming season, I think he's a very good value and somebody that you should draft. But once again, if Ja'Marr Chase is going later, then I want Ja'Marr Chase just because you also have a wide receiver in Ja'Marr Chase who's considered one of the best wide receiver prospects in years. And now he's playing with his college quarterback and Joe Burrow. This offense is going to be maybe lead the NFL, one of the top passing offenses in the NFL. So a guy who's going to be heavily targeted. And last year, before Joe Burrow got hurt, you had T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd were both top 25 wide receivers before Joe Burrow got hurt. So this is a guy in Ja'Marr Chase that can easily finish inside the top 20 at the position as well this upcoming season. So it's either Brandon Ayuk or Ja'Marr Chase, but currently Brandon Ayuk's going later. So Brandon Ayuk, first player. The second player I want to talk about, Jeudy, and this is somebody who last year he was a little disappointing in terms of fantasy football. In real life football, he was very good, except his drops were very bad, but everything leading up to the drop, to the catch, was very good. He had a 75% success rate against man coverage, which was in the 80th percentile. 87th percentile, and then his success against press coverage was 73%, which was in the 75th percentile. So somebody who was very good at getting open on his own, somebody that is going to be very good in this league for a long time as long as he can stay healthy. He should be somebody that gets open a ton. And I had a feeling like when this trade happened with Teddy Bridgewater, I just didn't, or if they signed him, I can't remember if they signed him or traded for him, but I think they signed him. When this signing happened, I just didn't think that Drew Lock or Teddy Bridgewater was going to be the starting quarterback. Drew Lock just hasn't had a true fair shake in the NFL. He's been hurt. His first year, he got hurt, missed a lot of time. His second year, the second game into the season, he has a shoulder injury. So yes, when he's played, though, it hasn't been the greatest, but I think this year he's going to take a big step. And I said this a while ago. I had this feeling. There's no data to prove this or anything like that. I just have this intuition about Drew Lock that he's going to be much better than what he has been this season, as long as he stays healthy. And obviously that's a big if because the first 2 seasons he has been healthy. But if he can stay healthy and he takes that step, I think Jerry Jeudy is going to be the main beneficiary of that, because you have Courtland Sutton right now. Vic Fangio has came out and said that he's not 100%. So how is that going to look going into the season? He has about a month left. If he's not really close to 100%, is he going to miss a little bit of time? Are they going to put him on a snap count? And if so, then Jerry Jeudy is going to be the main guy in this offense and somebody that I think can take a big step this upcoming season. So somebody I like a lot. Currently, he's going as wide receiver number 36, 87 overall in best ball leagues. So I like Jerry Jeudy, and I think you should buy into him. So Jerry Jeudy, number 2. Coming in as wide receiver number 3 for me is going to be Jarvis Landry. And this is somebody who's being drafted way too late. Currently being drafted as wide receiver number 46, 91st overall, once again in best ball, where wide receivers are more of a premium. But wide receiver number 46, to me, is crazy. This is a guy who last year was the first time in 6 years that he has not finished inside the top 20. And if you look at last season, he missed week, I believe, 16 due to injury. And then if you look at the middle part of the seasons, I believe it was week 8, 10, and 11. Because they had a bye week in week 9. So week 8, they play the Raiders. That game had 30-mile-an-hour winds. They barely threw the ball. The next game against the Texans, it was a monsoon. There was pouring rain that game. There was high winds as well. They barely threw the ball. And then the next week against Philly was the same. It was a monsoon once again, and they barely threw the ball. Combined in those games, Baker Mayfield has 67 passing attempts in those 3 games. He completed 36 balls in those 3 games, all right? So if we take those games out, and I know it's not fair to the rest of the league, but if you take those games out, take out his game, obviously against the Jets when he didn't even play, he averaged 13.4 fantasy points per game in PPR leagues. That would have put him right next to Chase Claypool and Curtis Samuel for wide receiver number 23 in points per game. So borderline top 20 guy. That now you have Odell coming off of another significant lower body injury. Is Odell going to be the same player that he has been throughout his career, where he's kind of gotten worse and worse, a decline? So I just think Jarvis Landry is this consistent guy in the slot that Baker can easily rely on. There's a good connection between those two. So Jarvis Landry, for me, can easily outperform this and give you a guy that has solid. His ceiling isn't as big as other guys, but his floor is going to be very consistent week to week. He's a guy you can rely on. Plug and play each week is going to get you, your 13 points a week, like a guy that's very, very good at doing that. So Jarvis Landry, for me, is easily outperforms this ADP. He's the 3rd wide receiver. The 4th wide receiver is going to be Elijah Moore. And I want to say this real quick. I feel like I'm obviously jumping on the bandwagon, but this has been somebody that I've liked all offseason. If you go back and watch the pre-draft video that I released of the top 15 wide receivers, I said that Elijah Moore in that video was one of my favorite wide receivers to watch coming into this draft. And I felt like he had the possibility to be one of the best wide receivers in this draft class. And I compared his route running to Antonio Brown, which is lofty expectations, but believe me, I've watched Antonio Brown for the past decade and watched Elijah Moore, and it is very similar by how they get open. Their precise route running, their change of direction, how he plays the game of football reminds me a lot of Antonio Brown. And once again, I know it's lofty expectations, but this is somebody that I believe can be very, very good in the NFL. Sure, he's not the biggest guy in the NFL, but neither was Antonio Brown. He relied on getting open by just being a technician, which I believe Elijah Moore can be. And he was one of the best, if not the best route runners in college, is building up momentum right now in camp with Zach Wilson. So I believe that there is a ton of potential here. And I'm getting him everywhere I can because currently he's being drafted as wide receiver number 54. I think he can absolutely crush that. And in dynasty leagues, he is somebody that I would absolutely go out and get because his value is going to skyrocket after the season. There's so much potential here for him. So while everybody else is focusing on Terrence Marshall and all of that, Elijah Moore should be your number one priority outside of Jamar Chase, in my opinion. So Elijah Moore, number 4. Coming in as the last wide receiver, and he did just exit camp early. Like I just got the breaking news as I was done making this video. So it's Tre'Quan Smith, and I don't know the severity of his injury, but if he's okay, and it's just going to be like a week thing or a day-to-day thing, then sure, I still like him. But if not, then you look at Callaway. That was somebody else that was another person that I was going to say, like, we have to see who Jameis Winston likes during camp, because I think that Jameis Winston is going to be the starting quarterback for this team. So who is his preferred target? Because I don't think that this team is going to be a fantasy wasteland like a lot of people think outside of Alvin Kamara, and they're even moving down Alvin Kamara because of Michael Thomas getting hurt when Michael Thomas barely even played last season. And like Alvin Kamara still finished as RB number 1. I just don't understand the thinking here for some people. So for me, if Jameis Winston is the starting quarterback, which I believe he should be the starting quarterback, he will be the starting quarterback, then there's going to be a wide receiver that he's going to like, and that wide receiver is going to provide fantasy value. Currently, Tre'Quan Smith is going as wide receiver number 60. Depending on the severity of this injury, if he's okay, and if he looks like he's the guy that Jameis Winston likes the most in camp, then he's the guy that I'm targeting in the drafts. If it's Callaway, then I'll be targeting him. But there's going to be a wide receiver from the Saints that's going to be good, that Jameis Winston's going to be targeting. And for me, I'm not somebody that's a big hater on Jameis Winston, as you all know. I like Jameis Winston a lot, and I think in terms of fantasy football, Jameis Winston can provide fantasy value for this team easily. So I want whoever his favorite target is. Maybe that's Tre'Quan Smith. Maybe that's Callaway. Maybe that ends up being Troutman, the tight end. We'll have to see. So let's see who it is. I'll keep you up to date. That's why you should subscribe to the channel, so that way I can tell you who he likes, because I follow a bunch of Saints beat reporters and I ask him a lot, like, who's the guy that he's targeting. So with that being said, if you enjoyed this content, once again, make sure you like and subscribe. Really appreciate it. Thanks for watching and have a great day.